All right, so today we're diving into something pretty different, boxa, the new brain boxing.
Okay.
And this book you shared with me has me really intrigued. It's not every day you see boxing described as brain boxing.
Right. When I first saw this book, um, by the way, by Arnaud van der Veer and Raymond Erberville,
Okay, yeah.
we had to talk about it.
Yeah.
It really challenges like everything we think we know about boxing.
Okay, so for those of us who are maybe more familiar with like shadow boxing in a gym class,
Yeah.
than the world of jabs and uppercuts,
Right.
give us the basics. What exactly is boxa?
So it's definitely rooted in traditional boxing techniques.
Okay.
But the authors Arnaud and Raymond make a really interesting point right off the bat. Less than 10% of people who train in boxing ever actually compete.
Wow, less than 10%. That really changes the perspective, doesn't it? It's not just about getting in the ring.
Exactly, and that's where boxa comes in. It's designed for the other 90%, for people who are drawn to boxing for personal development, for fitness, maybe even stress relief.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. So it's like taking the essence of boxing, the movement, the discipline,
Yeah.
and applying it to everyday life.
You got it. And the authors argue that traditional boxing, with its emphasis on a fixed front leg, is kind of stuck in the past. They say it's time for boxing to evolve, especially for a generation that's used to constant change and multitasking.
Okay, so how does boxa actually work? What makes it different from what we might see, like on TV,
Yeah.
at a big title fight?
One of the core principles is this idea of switch boxing. Instead of staying in one stance, you're constantly transitioning between orthodox and southpaw, keeping your mind and body guessing.
Wait, hold on. So you're constantly switching which leg is forward. How do you even do that without getting tangled up?
It takes practice,
Yeah.
but that's the point. It's about building that fluidity and adaptability, not just physically, but mentally as well. Imagine yourself in a real-life situation, not just a boxing ring. Things are rarely predictable.
Right, like dodging grocery carts at the store on a Saturday afternoon.
Sure.
I'm starting to see the connection.
Exactly.
The switch boxing is like training for those everyday moments where you need to react quickly and adjust to the unexpected. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The authors compare a boxa practitioner to an atom.
Wait, what? They compare boxing to atoms? That's wild.
It sounds strange at first, but it's actually quite brilliant.
Okay.
They talk about how on a microscopic level, atoms are in constant motion, constantly interacting with their environment.
So you're saying that just like an atom is constantly interacting with its environment, a boxa practitioner is always adjusting their movements based on their opponent and their surroundings.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about embracing that constant state of flux,
Okay.
finding your center amidst the chaos.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about being rigid or predictable.
Right.
It's about being adaptable, responsive, always ready to shift and change.
Okay. I'm starting to see how this all ties together. So switch boxing is like the practical application of that atomic principle. You're always moving, always adapting, never staying still.
Precisely. And that constant movement, that fluidity, has some surprising benefits. The authors argue that it not only improves your agility and coordination, but it also enhances your reaction time and your ability to adapt to unpredictable opponents.
So it's not just about being fast on your feet, it's about being mentally agile as well.
Right.
And do they have specific exercises for this? Because it sounds pretty advanced.
They do, and it's not all about complex drills either. One of my favorites is something they call the gym teacher warm-up.
The gym teacher warm-up, tell me more.
It's all about embracing variety and get this joy in movement. Imagine like a super energetic gym teacher
Yeah.
who's constantly changing up the routine, throwing in unexpected moves, keeping everyone on their toes. It's a reminder that training doesn't have to be serious and monotonous. It can be playful and fun.
I love that. It's so easy to get caught up in the, no pain, no gain mentality.
Right.
But this sounds like it's about finding that balance between pushing your limits and enjoying the process.
Absolutely. And boxa also incorporates more traditional training methods like partner drills and even weightlifting.
Okay.
But even these are approached with a focus on adaptability and fluidity.
So it's not your typical weight room routine then?
Not at all. They call their weight training method Nurex. It's about using lighter weights, but focusing on explosive movements that mimic punches. Think speed and precision over brute strength.
Interesting. And what about those partner drills you mentioned? What makes them unique to boxa?
Well, they're designed to emphasize that constant interaction and adaptation we've been talking about.
Okay.
There's one in particular called the glove workout that really stood out to me.
The glove workout, what's that all about?
So instead of one person attacking and the other defending, both partners are constantly active, hitting each other's gloves in a series of predetermined combinations.
That sounds intense.
It is, but in a good way.
Hmm.
It's not about trying to overpower your partner. It's about working together to create this dynamic flow of movement.
It sounds like it builds a lot of trust and camaraderie, too.
Exactly. And it really highlights that core principle of boxa, constant adaptation.
Yeah.
Because you never know what your partner is going to throw at you next.
So it's not just about reacting to your opponent, it's about anticipating their moves, reading their body language, almost like a dance.
You got it. It's about developing that intuitive sense of timing and rhythm.
Which makes me think, with all this emphasis on movement and technique, does boxa ever address like the mental aspects of training? I mean, boxing, even traditional boxing, is often praised for its mental benefit.
That's a great question. And it's something the authors definitely don't shy away from. In fact, they dedicate a significant portion of the book to exploring the mental and emotional benefits of boxa.
So they're not just talking about physical fitness, they're also talking about mental fitness.
Exactly. They argue that boxa can be a really powerful tool for building confidence, managing stress, and increasing self-awareness.
Yeah.
They even talk about how the practice of constantly adapting and adjusting your movements can translate into a more adaptable and resilient mindset in everyday life.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like you're training your brain to kind of expect the unexpected and to roll with the punches, both literally and figuratively.
Exactly. And speaking of rolling with the punches,
Yeah.
they also give some really practical advice on training safely and effectively.
Like what? Give us the highlights.
Well, they cover everything from choosing the right gloves and hand wrapping techniques to breathing exercises specific to boxing.
Yeah.
They even address common concerns like managing pain and recognizing the difference between discomfort and potential injury.
It's great that they're so thorough. I think a lot of people are intimidated by boxing because they think it's all about like brute force and aggression.
Right.
But it sounds like boxing is much more nuanced than that.
It absolutely is.
Mhm.
They even emphasize the importance of play in training, especially for younger participants.
Play in boxing.
Yes. They argue that incorporating games and playful exercises can help people, especially kids, develop a love of movement and a more intuitive understanding of the principles that they're trying to teach.
So it's about finding that joy in movement that we were talking about earlier. I love
Mhm.
that. Okay, so we talked about switch boxing, the atomic boxer analogy, even playful warm-ups. What else makes boxa stand out?
You know, one thing that really struck me was how they encourage people to use the mirror, not just for checking their form, but also for exploring movement patterns and developing their own personal style.
Oh, interesting. So it's not about mimicking someone else's technique. It's about finding your own rhythm and flow.
Exactly. And they tie this back to the brain boxing concept by emphasizing the importance of self-awareness. By watching yourself in the mirror, you're not just observing your physical movements, you're also becoming more aware of your thoughts, your habits, your reactions.
Wow, that's pretty deep. It's like they're taking boxing and turning it into this incredible tool for self-discovery.
You got it. It's about so much more than just throwing punches. It's about challenging yourself physically and mentally, breaking down old patterns, and discovering your own potential.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into boxa, what's the one big takeaway you hope our listeners walk away with today?
That's easy. Boxa isn't just about becoming a better boxer. It's about becoming a more adaptable, resilient, and empowered human being.
Mm-hmm.
It's about finding that balance between strengths and fluidity, discipline and playfulness, pushing your limits, and honoring your own unique rhythm.
Beautifully said. It sounds like boxa has a lot to offer both inside and outside the ring. Thanks for taking us on this fascinating deep dive.
Thank you for having me.
And to our listener, if you're looking for a fresh approach to fitness and personal growth, boxa just might be the answer. Give it a try. Who knows what potential you might unlock.